Looking at this game against the Timberwolves versus the Clippers, I only asked myself one question. Did the Clippers just prove how inconsistent they are? Or did they prove how much they miss Patrick Beverley? Let's talk about it. When I look at this game against the Timberwolves, it just makes me think one thing. Inconsistency is definitely in the Clippers' diet. Now, of course, we all know that they have injuries. Of course, we all know that they're not, 100%. They're depleted as a team. They're not all together because all their players aren't on the floor. We know that. But when you find a way to get a win against a team like the Nets, who are damn near fully staffed besides Kyrie Irving, which you kind of can't count him because, he wasn't a part of the rotation this whole season due to the COVID issue. But you find a way to get a win against a team like that on the road and string together. But you come back home against a team like the Timberwolves, who is a pretty good team. They're not too bad, but they're not a good team like Brooklyn. They're not a good team like, the Bulls or something like that. You see what I'm saying? They are a team that the Clippers can beat. And the Clippers don't get much production from anybody. I think Marcus Morris has 12 points. The leading scorer was actually Serge Ibaka. He was 7 for 7. He was the only positive out of the game. And I think Justice Winslow had like 15. Ennis had like 10 points himself. But it just wasn't much contribution out of anybody. Terrence Mann, the rest of the crew, Reggie Jackson, really wasn't much, contribution out of nobody else. It just was one of those games where either the Clippers were sleepwalking or they just got beat down. And honestly, you could say it's a little bit of both. And this game right here, when I looked at it, I don't know if it was more about the inconsistency of the Clippers or the fact that they missed Patrick Beverley. Patrick Beverley had 11 points and 12 assists and was playing pesky defense as always, getting hype as always. And this is the type of thing I was telling you that I was saying before, where you miss certain players like that who can give you a difference in a game or brings a difference in a locker room just by their presence. Now, Patrick Beverley is not a superstar, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, he's not a scrub player either. He's a player that can help a team be good, be great. We saw that last year in the playoffs when he locked up Devin Booker, one of the premier scorers in the league, in an NBA playoffs, in a conference finals where the Clippers could have won probably if maybe Paul George hits that free throw in game 2 of the Phoenix Suns, where the Clippers would have been tied 1-1 instead of down 0-2 again in a series. You never know what would have happened because Patrick Beverley would have definitely been the hero of that series if they won that series. Because to lock up a player like Devin Booker and knock down some big 3-pointers as he was doing last year showed what type of player he can be and what type of player he can be to a team that's trying to win a championship. And I don't know if this game was just Patrick Beverley's revenge game. I don't know if the Clippers really just were sleepwalking or just inconsistent. It could have just been all of the above. Who knows? But really, it's what I said in yesterday's video. Don't get a big win against a team like the Nets and then lose a game against a team like the Timberwolves. And if you do lose a game against a team like the Timberwolves, don't lose it 122-104. Because that's just not good basketball. And you have enough talent on your team to at least lose more respectively than that. And I know, you can say a lot of things. The Clippers might be tired, fatigue, and all that, but so is every other team in the NBA. Every other team travels. Every other team is tired. Every other team has injuries. Every other team is going through COVID. We're all going through the same thing. So it's no excuses for no team. And I just expect better for the Clippers to be. I expect them to be better. And I'm pretty sure Ty Lue and the rest of the crew, Brian Shaw, whoever's coaching, I'm pretty sure they expect them to be better because they just have to be. They've been through enough. They've been resilient enough. They've shown next man up mentality. They've shown edginess. They've shown that they have the roster to do a lot of good things, but they have to just put it together. And these last couple of years, Either it hasn't been put together because of injuries, or it hasn't been put together because they're not gelling at the right time in certain situations. And situational basketball is one thing I always talk about, because you have to play at a high level in certain situations. It's just no other way around it. That's the only way you're going to win or be a contender or win a championship. And I'm not saying this is the end-all be-all game for them, because it isn't. It's just that when you look at a team like the Clippers pull off a victory against the Nets to start off the year, I think they could have pulled off a victory against a team like the Timberwolves, when even though the Timberwolves are, I would say, an ascending team, they're playing really good. They play good as a team. But at the same time, the Clippers can still beat them. This is Anthony Edwards. Let's see who else is on the team that's a star player. Yeah, Karl Anthony Towns. Then you got Patrick Beverley, and you got a bunch of role players. Those guys are not equivalent to Kevin Durant and James Harden. You just beat Kevin Durant and James Harden with both of them scoring 30 points apiece. And you come and lay an egg against a team like the Timberwolves at home on your home floor, where you get blown off the floor, and it looked like the Timberwolves just had an easy ride. It didn't even look like the Timberwolves broke a sweat in this game. They were getting what they wanted, and Anthony Edwards was just, doing what he wanted to do. And like I said, the fact that Patrick Beverley got 12 assists, something that I don't think he's ever done with the Clippers. Like I said, it could have just been a revenge game for Patrick Beverley. But at the same time, it shouldn't be a revenge game for him, because you should be able to neutralize him, because you know what he likes to do. You've played with him for years. You've watched him on your team the last couple years. You know his tendencies. You know he's a hype guy, and you know the certain angles to go at him because he was your former teammate. And I understand that, he wants to make a statement against the Clippers, but the Clippers can't allow that to happen. If anybody gets 12 assists on that team, it shouldn't be Patrick Beverley. You can't allow that, because that's not something he's ever done for your team when he was there. Or maybe he could have, but maybe he just didn't get the opportunity. Maybe Ty Lue was wrong. Maybe Ty Lue was wrong for letting him go. Maybe Ty Lue didn't explore his talents good enough, because I didn't know Patrick Beverley can get 12 assists. If he can do that, well, he might have been a top 10 point guard in the league if he was able to get 12 assists a game. But that's just something that the Clippers can't allow to happen. An unlikely, unsung hero like that to get that type of production. Now, if Patrick Beverley hits a few threes, plays some good defense, stuff like that, okay, you got me. Which he did a little bit of that as well, but he shouldn't go out there and get 12 assists like he's a James Harden, he's maybe a Stephen Curry or somebody like that, or maybe even like a Lonzo Ball. He's not any of those players when it comes to offense and seeing the floor and playing at that level. I mean, he's just not that player. But the Clippers just laid an egg, and the Clippers played lackadaisical again. And the lackadaisicalness they play with, it just really hurts them overall. And this is what I'm saying. You're not going to get far if you keep playing inconsistent. Now, of course, it's just one game. I don't want to trip over one game too much, because one game doesn't mean much. It's a whole lot more games in the regular season. It's a whole lot more opportunities to redeem yourself and make, things better for your team. It's a whole lot more opportunities for you to, get back on track. And, of course, we know the Clippers have injuries, but injuries become excuses after a while when you have a good enough team to do a lot of good things. And honestly, they may not be healthy, and I definitely give them that. I definitely can't take that away from them. I definitely got to acknowledge that. But playing with more energy and spirit and being more consistent is key. And I understand Paul George isn't there. I understand, of course, Kawhi Leonard's not there. I understand these things. But you've gotten wins without them against teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves. Even with Anthony Edwards there, they're still a middle of the pack, little bit below 500-ish type team. With him and Cat there, they're not like a number one seed in the West or something like that. They're not even close to that. So, it's not like they're one of those teams that, scare you, or a team that you can't beat, that you don't have capabilities to beat. Honestly, without Kawhi and PG, you can beat a team like the Timberwolves if you played them in a 7-game series, if you tried. If the Clippers had to play the Timberwolves in a 7-game series right now, and if the Clippers really tried and put all their effort into it and their mental into it, and don't be lackadaisical and falling asleep on defense and missing assignments and being inconsistent and you know, those type things, they could beat a team like the Timberwolves in a 7-game series without Kawhi and PG, I believe. If you could beat a team like the Brooklyn Nets with that firepower they have, you can beat a team like the Timberwolves. Enough said. Nothing else to be said there. So, I mean, just the other night, you had Eric Bledsoe score 27 points. 27 points the other night against the Nets. And what does he have this game? He has 1 point against the Timberwolves. And he played 22 minutes. 22 minutes requires at least, I'd say, 8 or 10 points from one of your main scorers. And honestly, he's probably one of, if not your main scorer right now, because there is no Paul George. There is no Kawhi. You know, COVID is going around with the team. You know, whatever, just like it is other team. He's the main guy. Or he's one of the main guys besides Reggie Jackson and maybe Serge Ibaka. But to follow up a 27-point game against a team like the Nets, to come to this game and only have 1 point, that's too low of production. Very, very inconsistent. And you're not going to win games you're not going to win championships like that. And that's just the way it is. I always tell you, it's the little things, it's the intangibles, the little things you have to pay attention to. A player can't go and drop 40 points. Hypothetically, this is just hypothetical. A player can't go drop 40 points and then come back the next game and drop 8 points. It's just not the way you're supposed to be. That's going to get you beat in the long run, because it's just not enough consistency where you can build off of that. It's just a coincidence that you magically pulled off a Cinderella victory. It's not consistent enough for you to pull off wins in the playoffs or win a championship playing that way. And that's just the way basketball has always been. You've got to follow up games and be productive. That's how great players are great. That's why great players are looked at as being great. That's why good role players are looked at as being solid, good role players. If a role player gives you 14 points tonight, he should be able to give you 12 or 10 tomorrow. That's just the way it is. There's no way in the world Eric Bledsoe, even though he only played 22 minutes, he didn't play like 30 minutes or something like that. He can't follow up that other game against the Nets with 27 with 1 point. It's just no way possible. It's just not supposed to be that way. And like I said, every team's going through fatigue and injuries. It's no excuses. The Clippers have got to be better. And these type of little losses right here come back to hurt you, because these are teams that you're capable of beating. These are teams that you should beat. And these are teams that you're allowing to do things that they don't do normally against other teams. Like I said, shout out to Patrick Beverley. You know, Clipper Nation does miss him more. I know they do, even though they probably don't want to say it. But for him to get 12 assists, I don't even know what to think when I actually saw him actually, get that. I mean, I saw him when he had like 10 assists. I was like, wow, how did they let Patrick Beverley get 10 assists? Then he ends up with 12 assists. I still can't even understand how the Clippers even let that happen on their watch. I mean, honestly. But I mean, hey, this is what the Clippers do, and this is what they're going to have to correct. And I believe they can correct it. I'm not going to say they can't, but don't get big wins against teams like the Nets and follow up with losses like this, because it makes the fans shake their head. It makes everybody wonder, and it makes everybody inquire about, how good could this team really be? Or is it just them gassing us up for failure? And I'm pretty sure a lot of fans out there think that by seeing things like this, because a team that is, I mean, like I said, if they lost to the Timberwolves and the score was 122 to 118, it'd be a whole different topic, whole different situation. But you got blown out off your own floor against a team that really, I mean, I don't look at the Timberwolves as a top seed in the West. I don't look at they wouldn't even be a top seed in the East if they were in the East, I don't think. They're just not that astounding of a team that threatens you to where you can't, put a better game or put up a better fight against a team like this. It's just inexcusable to me. Now, maybe I'm looking at it a little too far into it. I understand that. But me, I'm the type of person, I don't like inconsistency. I love consistency in everything I'm doing. I mean, hell, you see me put out a video every day, right? You see me do this stuff all the time because consistency is what it's all about. You know, putting your foot forward in your craft and being the best you can be is what it's all about. And that notion goes in sports. That notion goes in life. That notion goes with everything you do in your life. So the Clippers, big loss. Okay, suck it up. Now you got to go and try to play the Phoenix Suns, which is going to be an even tougher matchup. So we'll see how that goes and how that pans out. Hopefully they play a little bit more with more spirit, more heart. And if they do lose, you know, put up a good fight. Put up a decent challenge. Don't go out there and lay an egg and lay down for a team. Go out there and play your hardest and give it all you got. Because people can tell when you're putting all your heart into something, or, you know, rather the opposite. And I'm not saying the Clippers don't play hard, but sometimes they just play so inconsistent and lackadaisical. It drives me crazy, and it's just not good. But hey, I mean, we'll see how they do going forward. This game might have just been one game, so hopefully I'm wrong about what I'm saying about the Clippers. Hopefully they get back on track and become more consistent. And like I said, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, but go out there and play the way you're supposed to. Play with your heart and your pride. Don't go out there and get blown off the floor by teams who shouldn't even be on the same floor with you. And that's just my motto. But hey, that's my take on the situation. Leave any comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think. As always, and hey, Cali out.